Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. Thank you for joining me. This is episode 55 of Hockey on the Spot. And today, more preseason scores. We're just going to dive right into it. We'll have some updates afterwards. So let's get moving. 6 games last night, um, starting with the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Buffalo Sabres. A shutout victory for the Buffalo Sabres, 3-0 on home ice. Buffalo goals scored by Billy Lano, assisted by Cody Hodgson and Mike Weber. Then in the third period, Mikhail Grigorenko would score, assisted by Drew Stafford and Mike Weber. And then Zemgus Girgensons would score an empty net goal to put an end to the game, assisted by Mikhail Grigorenko and Mike Weber. So Mike Weber, a 3-assist night, an excellent performance for him. Surprisingly, he was not one of the stars of the game, but that he was one of the best players on the ice that night. And Jonas Enroth was perfect as well. 26 saves on 26 shots, so perfect save percentage for him. Meanwhile, for the Columbus Blue Jackets, they got a bit of a split in goal. Mike McKenna would play the majority of the game, making 14 saves on 15 shots and 933 save percentage. And then after that, Jeremy Smith, who sees his first preseason action, would come in making 7 saves on 8 shots and 875 save percentage. So, big win at home for the Buffalo Sabres. Next, we have the Nashville Predators and the Washington Capitals. Another home ice win here. The Washington Capitals, a big home ice win. Washington goals being scored by Eric Fair, assisted by Mikhail Grabovski. Then Nicholas Backstrom, assisted by Marcus Johansson and Alex Ovechkin. Then Eric Fair, assisted by Dane Byers and Mikhail Grabovski. And then Alex Ovechkin would score a power play goal, assisted by Mikhail Grabovski and Nicholas Backstrom. So another 3-assist performance in this game by Mikhail Grabovski. He has been tremendous since joining in the preseason. He's been a playmaking extraordinaire. Michael Neuvirth would play the entire game, making 33 saves on 34 shots, a 971 save percentage. For the Nashville Predators, Gabriel Bourque would score the only goal for them on the power play, assisted by Victor Bartley and Craig Smith. Carter Hutton would play the entire game, making 26 saves on 30 shots and 867 save percentage. So congrats to the Washington Capitals on a big home ice victory. Next, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Detroit Red Wings at the Joe Louis Arena in Hockeytown. Unfortunately for the Red Wings, it was not Hockeytown last night. The Pittsburgh Penguins coming up huge with a blowout, a 5-1 win on the road. Remembering that these two teams played each other 2 years in a row in the Stanley Cup Finals in 2008 and 2009. They will no longer play each other in the Stanley Cup Finals because now the Detroit Red Wings are in the East with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh goals being scored by Jussi Jokinen on the power play, assisted by Matt Niskanen and Marc-Andre Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury getting an assist as he played the entire game for the Pens. Pascal Dupuis would score the second goal, assisted by Sidney Crosby and Chris Kunitz. Then Craig Adams would score, assisted by Evgeny Malkin and Rob Scuderi. Then Chris Kunitz would have a 2-goal night afterwards, the first one coming unassisted on a beautiful slapper, and then the second one in the third period on the power play, assisted by Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. Marc-Andre Fleury didn't face much, but was still pretty good, making 16 saves on 17 shots, a 941 save percentage. And for the Detroit Red Wings, only Drew Miller would get on the board, assisted by Michael Samuelsson in what was a wild goal. Peter Mrazek would play the entire game for the Detroit Red Wings with Jimmy Howard as his backup. He made 32 saves on 37 shots, an 865 save percentage. That's normally a lot of saves, but not last night. So a big win on home ice for the on the road for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Next, we have the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators. Huge win for the Ottawa Senators on home ice. 5-2 would be the final score. Goals being scored by Clark MacArthur, assisted by Corey Conacher and Erik Karlsson. Then after that, Bobby Ryan would score on the power play in what was a highlight reel goal, assisted by Erik Karlsson and Andrew Hammond, the goaltender who started the entire game for the Ottawa Senators last night. Then Milan Michalek would score, assisted by Stefan DaCosta. Then after that, Corey Conacher would score on the power play, assisted by Patrick Wierkosh and Clark MacArthur. And then Mika Zibanejad would top it all off, assisted by Milan Michalek and Erik Karlsson. And as I said, Andrew Hammond, who had an assist in the game, started the entire game, making 24 saves on 26 shots, a .923 save percentage. Montreal would only get 2 on the board. Their first goal gave them the 1-0 lead. Montreal goals scored by Magnus Nygren, assisted by Lars Eller and Greg Pateryn. And then they would also score the final goal of the game, Rafael Diaz, assisted by Martin St. Pierre. Peter Budaj would start the entire game with Carey Price as his backup, making 27 saves on 32 shots, an .844 save percentage. And this would be another game that would get rough. Like the Buffalo-Toronto game from a few nights ago, this was a game that would get rough, particularly at 6:59 into the second period, and then again at 16:07 into the third period. There were penalties out the wazoo. Ryan White had the most penalties of any player on the ice and for the Montreal Canadiens, 27 minutes, while Travis Moen was second on the team with 15. For the Ottawa Senators, Chris Neil would have the most penalty minutes for them with 22. Frederick Kleeson would have 15, and Matt Kassian would have 10. So it was a very rough night, but the goaltenders did not get involved. It was not as rough as the Toronto-Buffalo game. But regardless, a big win for the Ottawa Senators. Next, the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild. Big win on home ice for the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota goals scored by Matt Cook, assisted by Kyle Brodziak and Torrey Mitchell. Then Charlie Coyle would score, assisted by Ryan Suter and Danny Heatley. Danny Heatley looking to have a comeback year. And then Torrey Mitchell would score a short-handed goal, assisted by Keith Ballard. Nicholas Backstrom would start the entire game for the Minnesota Wild, making 33 saves on 34 shots, a .971 save percentage. He was really good. And for the St. Louis Blues, they only had 1 goal, scored by Jaden Schwartz, unassisted, but it was a short-handed goal. So that was the one upside, that Jaden Schwartz's goal would come short-handed and unassisted. For the St. Louis Blues, they got the split in goal last night. Yaroslav Halak played the majority of the game, making 12 saves on 13 shots, a .923 save percentage. And then Brian Elliott would come in afterwards, making 8 saves on just 10 shots, an .800 save percentage. So Halak was better, but overall, not a good performance for the St. Louis Blues as a whole. So congrats to the Minnesota Wild. And last but not least, the Phoenix Coyotes and the Calgary Flames in Calgary. The Phoenix Coyotes winning on the road by a final score of 3-2 in overtime. The only game from last night's action to go to overtime. Phoenix goals coming from Shane Doan on the power play, assisted by Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Michael Bodker. Then Oliver Ekman-Larsson would score a goal, assisted by Mike Ribeiro and Michael Bodker. And then in overtime, Zbynek Michalek, a defensive defenseman, would score the overtime winner, assisted by Kyle Chipchura and David Rundblad. Mike Smith would get the entire starting goal, making 29 saves on 31 shots, a .935 save percentage, and first star honors. Zbigniew Michalek would be the second star. For the Calgary Flames, they were trailing 2-0 and tied the game in the third. Calgary goals coming from Lance Boma, assisted by Matt Stajan and Lee Stempniak. Then Corbin Knight would tie the game, assisted by Ben Street, aka the game's third star, and Curtis Glencross. Rito Berra, the silver medal winning goaltender out of Switzerland from the World Championships, would get the entire starting goal, with Joey McDonald as his backup, making 22 saves on 25 shots, an 880 save percentage. So the Calgary Flames played well, but it would be the Phoenix Coyotes coming out on top. So congratulations to the Phoenix Coyotes. Next, we have some updates. Nashville Predators forward Victor Stahlberg, formerly of the Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks, will miss 3 to 4 weeks with an AC strain in his right shoulder. This is a big loss for the Nashville Predators because, again, he was part of the Stanley Cup winning team. Also, yesterday, we had 3 significant players going on waivers. For the Washington Capitals, Thomas Kondratek. For the Florida Panthers, Mike Motto. But the most significant of them all, from the Edmonton Oilers, Ryan Jones. He could be picked up by any team, and he would be a valuable depth player for any team that decides to claim him if he does not clear. Also, former NHL player John Madden has been hired as a pro scout of the Florida Panthers. He most recently ended his career as a member of the Florida Panthers. That would be the most recent team he would play for in 2011-2012. He also played the majority of his career for the New Jersey Devils and also had 1-year stints with the Chicago Blackhawks and the Minnesota Wild. He won 2 Stanley Cups in New Jersey and 1 in Chicago in 2010. Also, it is believed that goaltender Tim Thomas is expected to sign a 1-year contract very soon with the Florida Panthers, while goaltender Jose Theodore has a 1-year offer in the KHL and may decide to join that rather than waiting on some NHL teams in need of goaltending depth. So this is big news. Calgary Flames forward Steve Bégin has been released from his professional tryout contract. However, he would then go on to sign an American Hockey League contract with their affiliates, the Abbotsford Heat, so he will remain in the system. Buffalo Sabres have signed defenseman Nikita Zadorov to a 3-year entry-level deal, as they liked his play in the preseason thus far. Some other big news, the sale of the Florida Panthers will be announced on Friday and will cost New York businessman Vincent Viola $250 million. The deal will keep the team in Florida, but will not include the BB&T Center, which is county-owned, but will give Viola full managing control of the venue. This is big news. Again, and going back to the Ryan Jones being placed on waivers, there are several teams that will have a chance to claim him, and there will be several teams interested, such as the Colorado Avalanche, the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Nashville Predators, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Calgary Flames. All 6 of those teams will get first dibs. Also, some other big news, probably the biggest news of the day. The Toronto Maple Leafs have come to terms with restricted free agent defenseman Cody Franson, signing him to a 1-year contract worth $2 million. The only bad news about this is that it puts them $1 million over the salary cap and 1 player over the roster limit. They don't have to be compliant until October 1st, but they have to act quickly because the season is not that far away. But this is a good signing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They need him. He was one of their most valuable defensemen last year, and he has become a solid two-way defenseman in the league and poses a big body. Now, of all the big restricted free agents, only Derek Stepan of the New York Rangers remains on the board. Former NHL player and defenseman Mike Commodore has signed a contract with Vladivostok Admiral of the KHL. He had a solid National Hockey League career and will be missed. And finally, it has been announced that Washington Capitals captain Alex Ovechkin will be the first torchbearer for the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia, once the torch is ignited in a ceremony at Olympia, Greece on Sunday, September 29th. The torch will travel through all 83 Russian regions, visiting 2,900 towns and settlements. Ovechkin is scheduled to travel to Greece following the Capitals' home game against the Philadelphia Flyers on Friday, September 27th. He will take part in the torch lighting ceremony and return to Washington on Sunday, September 29th. This is huge news. And he, as of right now, is the face of the entire state of Russia. So this is huge news. And also, some other minor news. Lots of players still remaining on the board as unrestricted free agents, including veteran defenseman Wade Redden, who is still looking for work. Hopefully, he can find a contract somewhere. And that is it, folks. That'll do it for episode 55 of Hockey on the Spot. And this has been Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you all again tomorrow. Thank you, and have a great day.